Wales, Africa and the World, the podcast from Hub Cymru Africa, championing global solidarity and the connections between Wales, Africa and beyond. My name is Peter Gilbey, and in today's episode we're joined by Julian Rosser, the newly appointed head of Hub Cymru Africa. We'll explore Julian's long and rich career in global solidarity and his hopes for the future of Hub Cymru Africa and the international development sector in Wales. And later on, Julian will be joining Ore and me for this month's instalment of Africa This Week, exploring current affairs and the latest news out of Africa. Bore da, Julian. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What keeps you busy when you're not at Hub Cymru Africa?
Oh, my garden keeps me quite busy, I suppose. I live in North Carmarthenshire in the countryside with my husband and my 3 cats, and I do a bit of gardening. I don't do very much else, to be fair. So no great adventures to talk about, but that's what I get up to.
You're originally, though, from Byd-eang. I understand you started campaigning for social and global justice at a young age, organising an anti-apartheid protest as a teenager. What first inspired you to get involved in global solidarity?
Yeah, I was 15 when I went on my first demonstration, which was one that I organised with my friends from school outside a local supermarket. And I think it was at that point, apartheid was about to end, but we didn't know it. So I joined the Wales anti-apartheid movement when I was 14, 15. And it seemed to me quite outrageous that all of this was going on in South Africa and we were still importing and buying their fruit and vegetables in supermarkets. So we went out and leafleted the local supermarket, got in the papers, and talked to lots of people in Byd-eang. So it was about then I joined the anti-apartheid movement and Friends of the Earth. And so, I carried on ever since.
Almost prophetically, you went on to lead Friends of the Earth Cymru, and you've worked with Oxfam Cymru, Fair Trade Wales, and of course, most recently, as Senior Development Support Manager and now Head of Hub Cymru Africa. Looking back, are there any big moments or key moments that stand out to you? Any milestones?
I spent maybe 20 years campaigning against the M4 Relief Road. Again, I was in school when it was proposed, and I was one of the first people. I think I was the first person to demonstrate against the M4 Relief Road, because I went along to the public exhibition that they were holding on the Gwent levels with a little placard, and so I campaigned against that. I don't know, 20 years or something. So I was quite happy on both occasions when that was cancelled as a thing. I think I've really enjoyed just working with people, because you kind of do these campaigns, you win them sometimes or you lose them, but you can see very often that unless you change the fundamental system, then it doesn't matter if you beat a road or a shopping development or something. You've got to change the way that the whole of the world works.
You were there a few months after when Hub Cymru Africa was founded, part of that original team. How did you become a part of that project?
I got a maternity cover gig because Hub Cymru Africa was launched kind of early in 2015, and the wonderful Hannah went on maternity leave quite soon after. So I was looking for work, and there was a 6-month contract open, and so I was very happy to nip into that role. I stayed there for about 3 years. I don't know. It was. I think somebody else probably got pregnant, and in the end, I worked for Hub Cymru Africa as grants and policy manager there for about 3 years, and that was very entertaining.
In the beginning, then, because this year is 10 years of Hub Cymru Africa, what was the original objective? Why was Hub Cymru Africa started?
Hub Cymru Africa came about because there were lots of different organisations in Wales that were devoted to supporting various bits of the what you call the international development sector, international solidarity sector. So that is groups supporting fair trade. That is health links, health partnerships. So there are lots of different partnerships between Wales and Africa, between health professionals. Also, there are a lot of diaspora links. So there were different kind of setups for supporting the African diaspora, supporting community links, supporting fair trade, and it was decided that it would probably be a bit more efficient to try and bring the support mechanisms for all of those things into one partnership. So there were 5 different organisations got together and established the Hub Cymru Africa partnership. So that was the Sub-Sahara Advisory Panel, Wales Council for Voluntary Action, Fair Trade Wales, Wales Africa Health Links Network, and the Welsh Centre for International Affairs. So they all came together, established this partnership, and set about trying to work together to support that quite diverse sector in Wales. And important to say, of course, supported financially by the Welsh Government. That the Welsh Government has been the main funder of Hub Cymru Africa throughout that period.
Where did the first impetus for that coming together come from? Was it from the Welsh Government, or was it from within the sector itself?
Well, having joined kind of 3 months afterwards, I'm not really sure of all the detail of that. I think there was quite a feeling from the organisations involved that they wanted to work more effectively together, and I think the Welsh Government also wanted to kind of streamline its processes. So it seemed to work quite well all round.
We've touched on it a bit, that this year is the 10th anniversary of Hub Cymru Africa, and next year is the 20th anniversary of the Welsh Government's Wales and Africa programme. Are these anniversaries significant?
It's always a good moment to kind of take stock, isn't it, and think about the past 10 years of Hub Cymru Africa, about the past 20 years of the Welsh Government's Wales and Africa programme. And I think whenever those dates land, you'd say, well, it's an important and difficult time, and it is an important and difficult time. So it is a good moment for us to remember what we've achieved.
What has been achieved? And things stand out to you?
I think the nature of the sector is that we're talking about dozens and dozens of groups and organisations working in dozens of African countries. So it would be, so there is no kind of amazing, we cured malaria, or we've done something enormous. I think it's an accumulation of relationships and projects and work across so many different places. So yeah, I'd hesitate to say, this one thing is amazing. I think a lot of the work that our groups do is amazing.
Those groups in the sector in Wales, what makes them different to like the sector in England, for example, or groups or charities or international NGOs in other countries that work in the same space?
In a lot of ways, the sector is made up of organisations that are quite similar to those that you would see in England or in Scotland or in a lot of richer countries, that you've got a patchwork of very small organisations run by 2 or 3 volunteers who are working in a few £1,000s a year, and they raise some money and they support a community or a group in Africa with a project, to larger charities who've got incomes of hundreds of thousands, to health boards, university departments. There are some private sector organisations doing things as well. So I wouldn't say it's massively different from the kinds of organisations that you see in England. I suppose what we have in Wales a little bit more is the ability to network them, and the support that we get from the Welsh Government for small organisations, which is very difficult to come by in England. There's not that kind of funding available,
Right.
kind of tens of thousands of pounds to do a small project. So yeah, I think that our groups do probably talk to each other a bit more in Wales, get together a bit more, and there is a feeling of a Welsh community there. But the kinds of things that people do are pretty similar.
We've talked about how this year is big anniversary for Hub Cymru Africa. It's also been like a year of sadness with the passing of your predecessor, Claire O'Shea. She led Hub Cymru Africa for 6 years. What's your feelings on her legacy? Has she influenced you at all?
Yeah, I think Claire lent an enormous enthusiasm to her work and to the sector as a whole. And she was responsible really for very much redefining the work that we do as being actively, positively, very consciously anti-racist. And I think that the work of Hub Cymru Africa and the groups in Wales for 20 years or more has always been about ensuring that African voices are dominating, that African partners are leading programs and activities. But I think what we saw from Claire was really that shifting, very consciously saying, we need to be anti-racist very actively. We need to consider our privilege, both as Hub Cymru Africa, and support the sector in Wales to consider its privilege as well. And we need to take action to do something about that. And I think that's what really sticks with me about Claire's work with Hub Cymru Africa. But also, of course, Claire did an amazing job in campaigning for women with gynecological cancers. She was misdiagnosed and a cancer that probably could have been treatable, was not, and she died very sadly earlier this year because of that. So but she bore that diagnosis with incredible dignity and committed herself to campaigning for women in a similar position and to make sure that fewer women ended up in a similar position. So I think, there's that amazing legacy as well.
What form has that anti-racist work taken with Hub Cymru Africa? If a group or a member of the public wanted to see how anti-racism activity takes form, what would they find?
Well, they could have a look at our website, and we have there an anti-racism charter, which is something that we encourage groups in Wales who are working on international solidarity projects should sign up to. Accompanying that, then, we've got a self-assessment tool and a toolkit so people can work through exercises. It's designed for people working in that kind of international space. And it's recognizing that a lot of culture and tradition within the international development sector is based on outdated beliefs and practices that has in its roots in colonialism, and some of the whiffs of that remain within the sector. And what we're trying to do is to really shift the sector to ensure that we are led by partners in Africa, that when we are communicating about Africa or about people in low and middle income countries, that we're not doing that in a patronizing way that perpetuates stereotypes. So there's a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to reflect on. And if you go on a website, you can look at the charter, you can look at a whole world of actions. There's videos, there's a lot of kind of self-guided exercises that you can do. And as groups sign up to that, we will be encouraging people to online events where people can come together and discuss their experiences and talk together about how they can do better. And you can see events that are coming up on our website.
To engage with all of that, what do they have to do? Do you have to pay for a membership, or what?
You don't have to pay for a membership. Right. You just have to go on the website, log on. Well, you don't log on. You just put your details in and say you're signing up to the Anti-Racism Charter. Look at the kind of actions that we ask people to select, a couple of actions to focus on, and then you can work through the exercises that are there. So it's pretty easy to get involved, but I suppose we try to make it practically easy. Sometimes it's not emotionally easy, and we have to sometimes confront things about ourselves that we don't want to, right, or reflect on our previous poor practice or current poor practice.
I guess that's an important point for people to be aware of. Like, anti-racism work is by its nature not meant to be comfortable, is it?
It isn't meant to be comfortable. No, we need to do some honest reflection, and that can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah. But the point is to put the effort in. That's what's good.
Indeed.
You've stepped into your new role as head of Hub Cymru Africa at a big moment. What are your immediate priorities?
And my immediate priority is to get my head around quite a tricky role, and to. Yeah, so I think I'm doing a lot of talking to people, a lot of asking people what they think my priorities should be, but I'm very conscious that we need to be talking more to the Wales Africa community, to volunteer organisations, to professional organisations across Wales, to get a sense of what's next for them. And we've talked about that 10 years of Hub Cymru Africa, 20 years of Wales Africa programme from Welsh Government. And so my big priority, I suppose, over the next year is getting out and asking people what they want to see next for international solidarity from Wales, what sort of support they'd like to see from the Welsh Government and other institutions in Wales.
And so, as Hub Cymru Africa enters its second decade, what's your vision then after talking to the community? What is it that you'd like to see achieved in the next decade?
I really like our current strategy, which says that we're supposed to support the sector to be more effective. So to work with groups in Wales so that they are doing better work effectively, efficiently, and making the best use of the resources that they've got and achieving things. The second strand of that is that we want the sector to be more anti-racist. And I think we've got plenty of work still to do to work with people to make their practice better so that they can reflect better on what they do and how they do it. We say that we need to make the case for aid, make the case for rich countries to be giving money to support low and middle income countries and supporting people in those countries. So I think that that's a big thing, that clearly the kind of public support for international assistance has reduced over the past couple of years, and I think we've got an important role to play in changing that and in showing the incredible achievements that we can make by working together in partnership with organisations and with individuals in Africa and around the world. So I think that's something that we need to keep doing. So at the moment, I don't have any great idea for any great diversion from that strategy. I think it's a decent thing for us to try to do, and I'd like to keep doing it.
In terms of making the case for aid, you've said how there's been a decline in support for rich countries doing their bit for partnership and global solidarity. Are there any opportunities, or do you see any threats regarding that sort of aspect of the strategy? I'm thinking, next year is a pivotal year for Wales. There's the Senedd elections. What are your feelings about that? What do you envisage the sort of immediate strategy being for that election?
I think we will be doing what we can to make the case to people in Wales and to all the political parties that are going to get elected to the next Senedd to say that Wales should continue its role in international solidarity and to support people and communities in low and middle income countries, particularly in Africa. And we'll be out there shouting about that, telling the stories of the achievements that we can make, and doing what we can to ensure that there's strong political support for that sort of activity.
There is strong political opposition to that activity as well. There are far-right voices itching to dismantle the whole sector in Wales and breaking the links and the partnerships between groups here and communities in Africa. How can groups and Hub Cymru Africa and people who support the sector make the case for global solidarity?
I think we all need to be talking about our achievements and talking proudly about the work that that we do, that groups in Wales do, and about the things that they have succeeded in. I think we need to talk about that in the pub to our neighbours and our friends, talk about it online, talk about it in the media, make sure that those amazing stories are being shared and are being talked about, and to do that very proudly, and not to be cowed by random people online who say nasty things. That's always going to happen, but actually, there's a significant number of people in Wales. I think the bulk of people in Wales are very concerned about issues around global solidarity. They do want to see justice in the world, and they do understand that we've got a role to play in helping people everywhere. So I would say, actually, the way to defeat this negativity is just with a lot of positivity, and really explaining some of the amazing things that groups in Wales are able to achieve with their partners.
What is Hub Cymru Africa's priorities for the next Welsh Government, whatever form it takes? Are there things you want them to be focusing on, things they may not currently have their eye on that they should bear in mind?
Yeah, we've worked with our partners to come up with 10 things that we'd like to see from the next Welsh Government, and you can find them very easily on the homepage of our website. Kind of 10 things we'd like to see, but what we're after is really more commitment on important issues like climate change, because climate change is a massive issue which is affecting Africa, affecting people all around the world, but particularly badly hit people in low and middle income countries, who are suffering some of the most severe weather impacts and don't have the resources to adapt to some of those changes. So we'd like to see action on climate change. We'd like to see action on fair trade and boosting fair trade. Wales has been a fair trade nation since 2008, and we'd like to see the new government step up and doing more to promote trade justice and fair trade. We'd like to see more opportunities for people in Wales to get involved in international volunteering opportunities, and to support global citizenship enterprises. And we'd like to see more funding available for community links and for health links, as well as other diaspora-led initiatives to support communities in Africa. So we're looking for support for the sector, as well as the Welsh Government doing what it can to be a responsible global citizen. And so this sort of thing comes from, it flows from the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which says that Wales needs to consider how it can be globally responsible. So we've got that list. Check it out on our website.
And for someone who's not actively involved in the sector or running a link, why should behaving responsibly in Africa be relevant to them? I mean, to a lot of people, it's very far away, very distant, and so they think it's not really anything to do with them. They've got a lot of things to be concerned about in Wales. Why should they be concerned about things that happen on a different continent?
I think everybody needs to be concerned with everybody else on the planet. I don't really go along with, I know there are arguments to say that we need to support international solidarity efforts, international development efforts, from a kind of like a posture of enlightened self-interest, that we need to help people be healthy, or pandemics will spread to us, or we need to keep people in jobs, or we'll have lots of refugees. I actually think we should be doing this sort of thing just because it's the right thing to do. And I think that the idea of people who are relatively comfortable helping people who are not well off and are struggling is ingrained into our society through every religion and secular philosophy. And I think despite the fuss that we see online, that actually that's still a very strong strand of opinion within Welsh culture, within human culture. And I'm pretty confident that we can we can bring it out further and we can do better.
You spent quite a few decades, not quite a few
Thanks,
decades,
Pete.
campaigning and international solidarity. What keeps you motivated to keep doing this work, to seek and to achieve justice?
I suppose it's a kind of combination of love and anger, and I am driven by quite a bit of anger about the terrible things that are going on in the world, our role in a lot of those things within the UK, but also love for people. And I think that the thing that keeps me going actually is more about talking to people. And the thing that I do love about working for Hub Cymru Africa is that it gives me the opportunity from a little room in Carmarthenshire to be talking to people in Uganda or Nigeria or Eswatini and finding out about what is going on there, what's happening in their lives, and building up those friendships, those relationships. I think that's probably the main thing that keeps me going, is that actually it's great fun to talk to people and to work with people around the world, and to do that without getting on a plane is even better.
That's your motivation. If you could say in one sentence or a couple of sentences why Wales or Welsh people should care about global responsibility, what would you say?
I'd say if we're not going to, then why would we expect anybody else to? And everybody in the world needs to care about global responsibility.
Thank you very much, Julian.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Wales, Africa and the World. I'm pleased to welcome back Ojelade, Diaspora and Inclusion Officer at Hub Cymru Africa, and Julian is still with us to join us for our regular segment of Africa This Week. Ore, what have we got this week?
Hello everyone. So this week, 3 stories show Africa at crossroads. One about politics and power in Guinea, and one about justice and accountability in Kenya, and one about the culture and pride in Nigeria. Together, they tell us about the battles, the hopes, and the identities of today's Africa. Firstly, Guinea. This week, Guineans went to the polls in a referendum that could help reshape the country's political future. On paper, the vote is about moving from military to civilian rule after many years of instability. And this new draft of the constitution apparently is meant to extend the presidential terms from 5 to 7 years and create a Senate with 1/3 of its members appointed by the president himself.
So that sounds pretty positive on the face of it. Is it positive, or is it in reality a bit more complicated?
On face value, it looks very interesting. But if you look at it, you're moving from military rule to civilian rule. You don't give the people the full monopoly to make decisions themselves, because the president himself is the one electing the Senate seats. So that's 1/3 of the Senate seats.
Right. Okay.
And not giving the people the actual value to pick who they want into it.
I see. And I understand the president is the man who led the military coup as well, right? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So imagine a military leader who is quite confident in himself, sitting in a referendum knowing that he already has power.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's quite important context, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are people saying about this?
I think for most people, they're really happy about having the opportunity to make the choice. But critics have, as always, will say, why are you so confident in taking part in this referendum, knowing fully well you're not ready for an opposition party? Mm-hmm. So this is why I'm making the Guineans very worrisome about the existence of, is this democracy or is this military 2.1, like someone said on Twitter.
Anything we should look out for? When is the referendum happening?
So the referendum has been happening in some areas in Guinea, but hopefully by the end of this week, we'll know the results of it, if actually they're moving to a civilian role or the military, staying in the military role.
Right, okay. So I guess we'll keep an eye out for what happens, and fingers crossed for a peaceful process.
Yeah, I think one thing we should be worrisome about is if the people of ECOWAS or AU are actually going to be involved in it. because in the sense that Guinea provides a lot of resources to the people internationally. So are they going to keep their selfish interest for themselves, or hold Guinea accountable if this is going to be a bloody shed? Because there are 400,000 people, security personnel outside to protect them, because they know how worrisome this is going to be.
So quite a tense atmosphere.
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Yeah, could pass by peacefully, could also very easily not, I suppose. So, all right, what else has been happening?
So next in Kenya, we have a case that has lingered for more than a decade and is finally being brought forward. In 2012, Agnes Wanjiru, a 21-year-old mother, was missing at the British Army base in Nanyuki, Kenya. Weeks later, her body was found in a septic tank. And this is quite unfortunate because it shows how much the British Army base in Kenya or developing countries are taking the fact to abuse their power and take advantage of young women. And this is just one of the cases that's been brought forward.
I guess what's also surprising to me, because I'm probably ignorant, but why is there a military base in this part of Kenya? That sort of, you're right to talk about that sort of power dynamic. Is quite an imposing sort of state of affairs for locals in that area to see this former colonial powers military base. I imagine they're not the most sort of placid guests, are they?
Yeah.
Do you know how long this military base has been there?
I think it's been over a while for like the colonial era. Can be traced back to colonial era, because there are many instances of, even as a Nigerian myself, we hear about military bases back then when colonization happened, where predominantly the colonial masters encamped and taking advantage of these young women.
Right.
And because they regard them as someone older, more powerful than them, they allow themselves to be taken advantages of. So more often than not, you see areas where there are many mixed race children, and if you look for their fathers are not present.
So why is this story in the news now when she was murdered in 2012?
I think it's in the news now because now there's a name to the person who did this.
Right.
And hopefully they can be extradited to Kenya to get justice for this person who has died. And it's also symbolic and also shows that other African countries where the colonial masters have been and taking advantage of young people, that they could come out, seek justice, and justice can be served. So it's a form of hope for other people who have been in this kind of situation and who have kept quiet.
Right. So the fact that there's this extradition request is, I'm guessing, new then?
Yes, really new. I would say it's one of the first we've heard.
Right. Okay.
And
well, that's quite shocking, isn't it? Because this isn't the first woman to be mistreated, I'm guessing.
I think there are plenty of stories. You could hear even your grandparents telling you more stories or not about how the white man was trying to move to them, and if by force if they were not able to succumb to whatever they were asking for, either force was going to be taken or they become mean. So it's very interesting to see that now someone, at least somewhere in Kenya, that is being used. It's sad that had to be the cause to like propel this notice or understanding of what's been happening in a while to face justice and give justice to people who before her didn't have anyone to come forward.
So just going to ask, do you think this might unlock more cases from around Africa and other parts of the world?
I do hope it does bring more cases, but I doubt that people will still believe in the justice system. So we hope that if the justice is actually served, it will propel more people to come out. Or it could also give a voice to other people, if not without justice, because most of these people who did this action might be dead. So you can't get justice from a dead person. It's just maybe opening up to more stories and more accountability from the British government, especially with the fact of why do they have to have an army base in these home countries? It's really not needed. My personal opinion, though.
What has the reaction by the UK government been?
From what we've seen, it seems like they're very open to bringing him out. I think for a while they hid the name, but now I went online, I saw that his pictures have been exposed, and which is good in the sense that we've been seeing pictures of our body. Now we know the person who did this, and he's going to be held accountable to that.
Or the person who's been accused of it, at least.
Yeah, the person who's been accused of it.
What's the final story, Ari?
And finally, a story of celebration and pride from Lagos, Nigeria. Chef Hilda Basti, already famous for breaking the world record for the longest cooking marathon in 2023, has done it again. This time, she cooked the largest pot of jollof rice, recorded 8,780 kilograms, and the event turned Lagos the beautiful city where everyone came together with their plates to eat and beam with pride of the nation's legacy.
Well, that's really good. Considering there are issues going on in Nigeria at the moment, it's nice to see something positive happening. What do you think could be the implications of this internationally?
Yeah, I think internationally for this milestone, it just puts Nigeria on the map again for tourism, and also shows that as much as the country isn't being a good place for the people right now, or the government isn't doing the best job, individuals in the citizens of the countries are taking initiatives to put their nation on the map for good news.
Yeah.
So like more people are probably going to be interested in Nigerian jollof rice, or maybe even squash the beef between Nigerian and Sierra Leone jollof rice being the best.
Do you think,
I don't think that's going to happen, is it?
Are you gonna try and take the title from this chef?
Well, maybe if I go to culinary school, or maybe sell my mates at Hub Cymru Africa my jollof rice, they can tell me if I'm doing a good job or not to decide to take it to the next level.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you, Ore.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pete.
Julian, for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's it from Wales, Africa, and the world. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Julian for being our guest this week, and thank you, Ore, for joining us to discuss what's happening in Africa this week. If you want to get in touch with us to learn more about the international development sector in Wales, to access support, or for anything else, get in touch via our website, hubcymruafrica.wales. This has been Wales, Africa and the World. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you for listening.